Hello, hello. Chase the Traveler again with another exciting episode in this lovely country of Japan. So, without further ado, today's theme is about whether it's safe for women, specifically foreign women in Japan. Well, honestly, as a man, I really haven't had any problems over here. I've had a few scuffles, I've had a few fights, but I've never had any kind of life-threatening incident. But for women, things could be a little bit different. Do you have to walk around in fear as a foreign woman? No, I don't think so. It's not like that. But I do think you have to be careful. And I do think that it isn't as safe for women as it is for, let's say, like the foreign guy. Yes, foreign men do occasionally get into trouble over here. You don't hear about it much, though, but they get into trouble. But let me tell you about some women. There are women that have come here. There's this one girl, I think she came here she was from the U.S. I think I've talked about this before. She came here to meet this guy. And her parents weren't aware that she was coming here. She came by herself. Again, I'm pretty sure she heard that Japan was like a very, very safe place. So nobody knew who she was talking to. All of a sudden she gets over here and poof, like magic, she disappears for 10, 15, 20 years, never to be heard of again. The only trace of her was that airplane ticket that she took to get over here. That's it. She's gone. Now, I think a month or two ago, I think the family got some news from the Japanese police that they might have found her DNA. But again, I don't know where that went. But again, poof, she vanished. So things aren't always that safe. But do I know anybody who's vanished? No. I don't know any ladies that I've dealt with or that I've worked with that all of a sudden just disappeared, never to be seen again. No. But now I'll tell you this, right? Women who work at night, let's say specifically foreign women who work at night, have a higher rate of getting beat up by locals. That does happen, especially if you work as a hostess. Working as a hostess is not easy. A lot of people think that you're just sitting out there talking to men and you're just drinking, laughing. At least they're laughing because they always have to smile because they're being paid to entertain these guys. And a lot of the guys that go over there, basically they go over there because they can't find anybody else. So those ladies are paid for and they want what they're paying for. Now, of course, these hostess places aren't straight up prostitution places where you go, you pay money and you have sex. No, that's not the way it works. But basically you pay and you get teased. The ladies basically pretend to like you and you pretend to like the lady. Well, you like the ladies. The guys like the ladies. But the ladies are pretty much on an acting gig, pretending to like the guys that are paying them to drink with them and paying for their drinks. Now, occasionally, some of these guys get carried away. The ladies are a little too good at their jobs, and the men kind of forget that they're paying for the ladies to act like they like them. And sometimes that job involves, you gotta go out with the customer, do a little shopping. And if you're a guy, you go out there, you spend $1,000, $2,000 in a bar for a lady to like you. And then do a little extracurricular activity where you take her out, you buy her a little Louis Vuitton bag, you buy her a Tiffany necklace, and she's smiling, you know, she's holding onto your arm. I mean, sometimes there are expectations that, hey, I took you to go shopping in these very, very nice places. I bought you thousands of dollars worth of drinks at this bar. Obviously, I must be special. And pretty much, I mean, those girls are just taking that money and just recycling it with another guy. And they're doing the same thing that the guy's doing for them with a guy. And things can get a little hairy. Things can get a little dangerous. Because some of these guys are deranged. Not all of them, some of them. So, most certainly, I would say that as a female, you kind of have to watch your back to a certain degree. I mean, I don't hear of cases where women are kind of like being robbed or their things are being snatched on the street. I mean, no, you don't hear about that. But where the problems arise is when basically you have ladies who are involved with some guys. And then it gets a little, well, it's a little sketchy. Not all the time, but it gets a little dangerous. So, most certainly, I would say that if you're a woman, you have to have a certain amount of skepticism when you come over here. You cannot just think that you are going to go to Japan and you're just going to be safe because Japan's a safe place. It is most of the time. Is it like that all the time?
Hello,
it's definitely from the U.S.
You where about?
From New York City.
Where about you from U.S.?
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Yes, sir.
New York.
That's right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Now English is very good.
Okay. Thank you. So, kind of, either way, I had to say hello. Buddy of mine. I'm kidding. So, pretty much, what I'm saying is that, now what is going on over here? I mean, not quite sure what that was, but either way, it looks like this neighborhood is distracting me where I can't finish the story that I'm giving. Anyway, what I was saying was that, yes, of course, Japan is a safe place. Yes, of course, Japan is, for the most part, you're not going to have any trouble, but there is that case where you can run into trouble. There is that part where, as a woman, you kind of have to be careful who you associate with. You kind of have to be careful on the train in the morning because some of these guys out there are straight up predators where they're feeling you up in the car when it's crowded. So, most certainly, it's not the kind of place that you want to take for granted all the time. I mean, definitely, I would say that in Japan, as a woman, you have to be careful about who you associate with, what you do when you associate with that person. You can't just believe that you came to a place where you let your guard down and not have to think about anything. And I have a story about a woman that I knew. I mean, I still know. Not going to say her name, but basically, she was quite popular. She's from the US. The Japanese guys liked her. Still do, actually. Well, actually, right now, she's not as popular because... right now, she's not as popular because she's gotten a little older. So the older you get in Japan, well, I guess that's in any other country, the less popular, the less clout you have with these guys. So what happened with her was that she was messing around with this guy. She was messing around with this guy. The guy pretty much, I think she was giving him, I mean, she was serious about him. She was giving him her money. She was giving him her money. And, but the problem with her was that she wasn't necessarily all that faithful. She wasn't all that faithful. So one day, I think he caught her doing something. Again, I mean, in Japan, foreigners are pretty secretive. They tell you like a little bit of the story, but they don't tell you the whole story. So he caught her, which is what I think, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. I mean, all hell broke loose. I mean, he sent her to the hospital. She had 2 black eyes. I mean, she sent me pictures. I was like, what? She had to get the police involved. I mean, she gave him a lot of money, and he wasn't giving it back. I mean, pretty much, I mean, I don't think the money, he wasn't going to get the money back. Did he get arrested? Not really. It was a dispute, blah, blah, blah. He didn't get arrested, but she had 2 black eyes. The good thing was that she didn't stay with him. She didn't get her money back. So, most certainly, you have situations where things can get a little hairy over here if you're female. And you're definitely not going to be as safe as if you were a male. Most certainly not. So you got to be careful. I mean, again, I've heard of women, both Japanese and foreign women, getting groped on the train. Foreign women speak out. But the guy just says, oh, I didn't do it. And obviously the camera isn't that, how do you say? The camera isn't really that personal. I mean, it doesn't get up and close like you want it to in order to document something like that. So, therefore, it's a he said, she said, and it's a come back to you get when you get more evidence thing. So, of course, like I said, I mean, there's one case where this guy actually killed a lady, and I think it took years for him to finally be arrested for it. I mean, it was like a British gal. They didn't feel like the police were giving them the information that they needed. in order to get their daughter back. Well, their daughter didn't actually come back. So, most certainly, you have a situation where in Japan, you definitely need to watch your back if you're female. And ironically, most of the time it's not like walking at home alone at night. That's usually not it. It's usually the local guy that you know. Nobody's going to randomly attack you over here. That just doesn't really happen. It doesn't really happen. I mean, at least I've never heard of it happening. But like I said, you gotta be a little diligent over here if you're female. And I mean, again, things that would, let's say, that you could complain about. Let's say if you were living in America, you can't really complain about over here. Let's say you go to a hostess bar, a hostess club. You got hostesses out there, and all of a sudden these guys, they touch you, feel you, and whatever it is. You tell them to stop. Now, nobody's going to get in trouble for that if you're working at a hostess bar. So a lot of ladies, they are kind of like assaulted, foreign ladies, and they're kind of surprised that they have no rights when that happens. Now, and because they know that, very few complain about these things. So I would say that if you decide to come to Japan, no, you don't have to be super diligent, or whatever. My English is like going down the tubes again. You don't have to like worry about every little thing you do, every little place you go. No, I don't think it's that bad. But pretty much my point is that you can't just sit back and relax and say, okay, you know something? I'm going to like the safest place on the planet. Nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to be okay. Well, yeah, that might happen. But I wouldn't just go around and think that you are totally safe. No, I don't think so. You might definitely be safe. You might definitely not have any issues. But you mess with the wrong person, you will have some issues. You mess with the wrong guy, you will have some issues. I'm not saying that that can't happen in America. I'm not saying that can't happen anywhere else. But I think what happens here is that people underestimate where they're at. People underestimate what can actually happen because, again, you don't really hear about it. And when you hear about it, you don't hear about it enough to like where your antennas are up. And I would say that a lot of ladies over here run into trouble with some of the guys over here. And they kind of like let their guard down and think that they could do anything. Again, the friend that I had, I mean, she did something she wasn't supposed to do. But again, I don't think she deserved 2 black eyes for it. And she probably didn't think she deserved 2 black eyes for it. But I know that a lot of people are not thinking about that when they come to places like this. And you kind of have to think about these things, because if you don't think about these things, you could fall victim and you could fall prey to these things. So of course, I would say that you have to exercise a certain amount of caution as a female. And if you do, more than likely, you're going to be okay. I would say that the same kind of due diligence that you do in your home country in order to stay safe applies here. And if you come around thinking that you can do whatever you want, you're going to be safe, everything's going to be fine, that might definitely happen. That might definitely happen. But it might also not happen. And you might find yourself in a situation. So you definitely have to be careful. You definitely have to watch out. And you gotta not let your guard down. Because things definitely do happen over here. And you don't want to fall victim. You don't want to be prey. And the worst thing you can do is think that Japan is like this utopia, which it is sometimes. And that everything in Japan is just wonderful. And for the most part, I would say that everything is fine. But don't think that just because you get over here, everything's going to be perfect or fine or wonderful or fantastic and you're never going to have any trouble. But of course, yes, that might happen. So, anyway, Chase the Traveler again with another episode on Japan. Thank you very much for tuning in. Much appreciated. And see you in the next episode.